What's up, everybody? Welcome to GoJo Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Claudia Bellafato holding it down for the DraftKings studio in Boston. We had a great show for everybody. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, and review us. Leave us a 5-star rating and check us out here live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network, our YouTube channel, Samsung TV Plus, all those fun spaces here. We inch closer and closer to the NBA Finals. We get ready to talk to one of the voices that will be a part of the NBA Finals. And Claudia, tell everyone what else we have coming up today on the fine program.
Yes, we are so close to the NBA Finals, but first in disappointing news, because everyone was wondering, Senior did not win the Mega Millions. Very disappointing. But hey, we have NBA Finals tomorrow, Senior. It's going to be okay. One day away we are. We got the preview with JJ Redick and the All the Smoke crew. Hard Knocks Life, Courtney Cronin will join us to talk Bears in hour 2 and market trends, McCaffrey's new deal, and wide receiver holdouts. That man, just like Justin Jefferson, is getting paid. And like I mentioned, it all comes back tomorrow. The wait has been long enough. And good news for Boston Celtics fans, Kristaps Porzingis says the plan is for him to be back. He's been out for 5 weeks since Game 4 of that Round 1 series against the Miami Heat. Here's what he had to say about his status.
Are you 100% right now?
How you doing, guys? Good question. I don't know. We'll see. I have a couple more days, and I've done a lot of work up until this point, and yeah, I've done everything needed to get back into playing shape, and we'll see on the night.
So are you planning on being there for Game 1?
That is the plan. So right now.
So that is the plan. The line for this game has not changed. Celtics remain 6.5-point favorites. This sort of baked into the line. But on the other side of it too, Senior, you played sports a while. And I know football, basketball different, but injury remains the same. When you get hurt and you sit out and you come back from injury, you're never going to be 100%. So how much will him returning and the plan to be for Game 1 impact the Celtics squad in your eyes?
Well, it's really is going to be interesting on the differences for both Boston now with him back in the rotation and how Dallas is going to deal with that, especially if he pulls the bigs away from the rim like he certainly can. But in an injury situation, he even said it. I think the medical staff would not put me out there if they weren't confident I'd be good. Of course, it's hard to imitate the same intensity in practice. That intensity is going to be completely different. And that's the key. So a doctor tells you you're fine, right? Medically, you're cleared to play. You can't really practice your sport at full speed to fully prepare you for what's going to happen on the court. So a lot of this, Mike, and you know this, is the mental side of it. The first time you jump, the first time you push off. For me, it was mostly shoulders and knees at times. So whatever movements included those body parts, could you let it go 100%? Were you confident enough to do everything as hard as you possibly could? Because you can't really initiate that practicing before that of going as hard as you possibly can, getting banged the way you're going to get hit on the court, and doing all the things that you need to do to prepare you to play. So, I mean, you could tell the hesitancy in his voice, cleared to play, practicing, but there's the unknown of now going full speed on an injury that the doctor said, hey, you're good to go.
Well, I also think some of the uncertainty in his voice is the gamesmanship that we also know is at play here. Because at this point, what does it benefit you if you're the Boston Celtics or Kristaps Porzingis for Dallas to know exactly how you're feeling or exactly what your role is going to look like in this game? The mystery surrounding Kristaps Porzingis is the biggest story of game one, bar none. And to keep it that way, especially with the Dallas Mavericks, as they're trying to game plan, what are we going to do? Not only to stop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are an incredibly prolific backcourt, or Derek White or Drew Holiday or any of the other scorers they've got on this team in an offense that's been the best in the NBA this year. But then, oh, by the way, what do we do if the actual biggest difference on this team in the 2024 season is all of a sudden back in the middle of the court? So, Dad, I don't think there would be any benefit for him making his way out there onto the court, out into that press conference and giving them any semblance of a real answer.
I guess the only thing I'd say to that in today's world, it happens all the time. Dallas is preparing for him to be out there. So whether he says, I'm not sure I'm going to be out there or not, I guarantee you Dallas's game plan and practice has been, okay, if he's on the court, this is what we're going to do. This is how he plays. This is how we're going to defend him, or this is how we're going to play against him. So I don't know how much I buy into that. It's kind of like when the coach is coy on what quarterback's going to start. You know, listen, it's too sophisticated today where you're going to practice for both guys. And you have to. It's not like, oh, we're going to make them do more than they want to by preparing for Porzingis. Porzingis is going to play in the series, whether it's game 1, game 2, game 4, whatever. He's going to play. So they have to prepare for him to be on the court. So the gamesmanship, I get. I think it's maybe kind of a natural thing people do, but I don't really know what kind of an effect it has.
Well, we can find out for that information and so much more from our next guest here. Delighted to be joined by the host of the Old Man and the Three podcast, as well as Mind the Game with LeBron James, and one of the voices that you'll hear calling this great NBA Finals matchup coming up here, as JJ Redick is kind enough to join us here, I'd imagine from a hotel room in Boston, getting ready to go out and do this thing here. And JJ, we appreciate the time this morning. What's that?
He's got the bed made behind him. It's a good man that has the.
It's not made. It's not made.
There we go.
It's visually. I don't know this camera angle. I think just it's throwing you off, Mike. It's not a made bed.
I was giving you credit.
Actually, you know what's funny? I'm a neat freak. I have OCD. Everything in my house is like, super organized. When I go to a hotel room, it's the one time I just say, screw it. And stuff's everywhere. I'm sitting on this little desk right here. I've got open water bottles. I've got my shoes up on the desk. And for the remainder of my time in this Boston hotel, which I'll be here till Monday morning, I will just trash this room. Before I check out, I myself clean the entire room. And I've done that my whole life. Isn't that weird?
Really?
Isn't that bizarre? Wait, I cannot leave a hotel room. You've done that your
entire life?
I used to have anxiety about waking up to go to the arena for games because I had to clean the hotel room. Yeah.
Wait, so JJ Redick, as an NBA veteran,
it's all good.
As an NBA veteran, you were getting up to clean the hotel room yourself before you would go over to the arena and road games.
Yeah. I'd make sure all the trash was away. If I had towels that I used, I would put them in a nice pile in the shower or the tub, whatever was available. Put the recycling away for sure. And I wouldn't like make the bed, but I would make sure everything was in its place. And I can't leave a hotel room like for checkout unless that's done.
I'm envisioning an old time rock band that trashes a hotel room and then before they leave, they clean it up.
I mean, I'm in these hotel rooms solo and I'm not partying, so it's not like it's trash in that sense. I'm just saying, my notes for the State Farm live that I just did on my YouTube channel, like this will be around till Monday, and then I'll throw it away.
Incredible. All right, so if we know one thing, JJ Redick going to leave a hotel room spotless, even if, and I agree, I love the trash panda move. I put the sign on the door that says, hey, I don't need service during this week, and I just self-contain for the entire time I'm in the hotel room. So
Yes, exactly.
great minds certainly thinking alike there, JJ. Well, now that we know the hotel room habits, and I'm always interested in people's travel habits, so this is incredibly illuminating here. JJ, we got a lot we certainly want to get to you with here. We were talking about Kristaps being back and all that, but we can't ignore the elephant in the room here. We've been so much speculation about your future in the last couple of weeks. The Shams report comes out yesterday. So is there any truth to the reports out there, and just in general, your interest in coaching in the future that's been brought up relative to the Los Angeles Lakers?
I would say this. My focus right now is on calling the NBA Finals. I am so fortunate that I'm in this position and I get to call these finals with Doris and Mike. And I mentioned the State Farm thing that I just did on YouTube. My day-to-day right now is consumed with calling games, the 19 different podcasts I feel like I have, my obligations to all of our partners. So my focus is on the NBA Finals. I will say that. In terms of Shams, that will be addressed once the season is over. So I'll just say that. I'll just say that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mysterious.
Okay. You know what? That's a great old time radio tease right there. Well done on that. And also feel free when you want to address it. We're right here for you if this is the place you want to address it.
Yeah, we know you've got a lot of outlets, JJ.
Yeah.
You know you got your own podcast and stuff like that, but we really feel like when you want to break some news, we can be the platform to help you do that, all right?
All right. All right. Hold on. I don't mean any job. I mean Shams after the season.
Yeah, just Shams in particular. Okay.
We'll wait on that one.
Okay.
We'll wait on that one.
All right.
Yep.
Again, a wonderful tease. All right. Until that time, we do have a series to talk about. We were just talking about Kristaps Porzingis coming back, and anybody who's played a while, I just talked about it, knows when you come back from injury, you can't really prepare 100% full go until you come back. You're cleared to play. There's a mental hurdle as well. How do you see this going for Porzingis, and what adjustments will each team have to make for Kristaps coming back?
Yeah, there's always a mental hurdle. We talk about this sometimes on a broadcast. We talked about this on podcasts before. I think it's the hardest thing when you're a high-level athlete in any sport, and you are used to your body responding and reacting in a certain way, and you have an injury, and it's a serious injury, right? The calf strain that he had. And we've seen that injury turn into worse injuries with some guys this time of year. When you come back from that, there's a mental block. There's that reminder of that feeling of when you had the injury. The good thing for him is they haven't had to force him out on the court. So he hasn't had to come back too soon. My assumption is that he is going to play and that he will be Kristaps Porzingis. I think if you're Dallas and you're preparing for this series, you have to go in with the assumption that Kristaps Porzingis is not only going to play, but you have to prepare to play against the Kristaps Porzingis that played during the regular season, that played early in these playoffs, the guy that we all know. And to me, he's sort of the ultimate X factor. And if you think about the three opponents that Dallas has faced in the playoffs, the LA Clippers, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Minnesota Timberwolves, in each of those series, there were guys that you could ignore. And one of the things that makes the Dallas defense so good is their size and length. PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr., Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, size and length. And so if you're going against that and you're going against a set defense, when you have a non-shooter on the floor, you can essentially flood. You can send a body early. You go back and watch all of Anthony Edwards' ISOs, right? They were sending a body early. Why? Well, they had Rudy Gobert that they could help off of. They had Kyle Anderson they could help off of. They had Josh Giddey in the Oklahoma City Thunder series. They were willing at times to live with Chet Holmgren spacing the floor. That guy shot 6 for 27 from 3 in that series. You go to the LA Clippers series. They've got Zubats. I called 3 of those games. They wanted Russell Westbrook to shoot every time he got the ball. They were just helping off of him. Against the Boston Celtics, you don't have that luxury. And so if you're thinking about Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White getting downhill, getting into the paint and scoring, what are you trying to do? You're trying to bring Lively and Gafford outside of the paint. You're trying to get them away from the basket. And Boston has the unique personnel with any lineup they put out to do that. And I think that's, to me, that is the biggest challenge for the Dallas Mavericks, is figuring out how to protect the basket, how to stay out of rotation, and how to, in some ways, limit two on the ball, limit the three-point shot from the Boston Celtics. And by the way, there's a lot of challenges for the Boston Celtics too.
I was you led me right to it, JJ. It's like you've been doing this job for a while here. But with the Boston Celtics, I heard Charles Barkley, as the series was getting set, say, hey, they've got 4 different guys that they can throw at Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in that backcourt. How would you go about defending a guy like Luka, who obviously is coming off that prolific regular season, but now also in the postseason has been huge for them down the stretch?
When we talk about the best players in the world, they are unique in that they are a problem that you can't completely solve. They are a riddle that there is no answer to. A guy like me, when I played, you could come up with a game plan and you could solve me in some ways, particularly in the playoffs. Teams would, it's called top locking. So as soon as I crossed half court, somebody would get on my high side and just force me to the baseline. If I was playing with, let's say, DeAndre Jordan, his guy would just help off of him. Brooklyn did this when I played for the Sixers. Like, there are ways to solve a problem like me. There are no ways to solve a problem like Luka Doncic. There are no ways. Like, there's no good answer to the equation. There's no good answer to the riddle. And so you have to, and this is one of the things that I've really learned a lot from Joe Mazzulla. You have to figure out, and Joe uses math. You have to figure out expected shot values. You have to go in with the game plan based on expected shot values. You have to go in it with a game plan of what are we willing to live up with? And then within the game, you have to decide based on time and score and situation, are we going to make an adjustment? And Joe is great. I mean, he gets these updates throughout the game. What is our expected shot value of what the shot profile that we're getting versus our opponent? What is the time and score? Do we need to make an adjustment? Or do we believe, as he did in the Indiana series, that eventually the way we want to play the math game is going to work out in the end? And it worked out in the Indiana series. I think Luka is a different beast entirely, and I think Kyrie is a different beast entirely. And so it's going to be fascinating. And you bring up matchups. He's going to see a ton of bodies. Kyrie's going to see a ton of bodies. You can go into game one and say, all right, we're going to put Drew Holiday on him. We're going to put Jaylen Brown on him, and we're going to play drop coverage, and we're going to take away corner threes. Great. And that may work for a quarter. That may work for 2 quarters. I think what is so interesting about this series on both sides is you have 2 really high-level coaches. You have a ton of talent. You have 2 teams with great identities. And they're different identities, but great identities. You are going to see a ton of adjustments throughout the series. So we can sit here on game 1 eve and we can talk about different matchups. That, excuse my language, that shit may not matter in 2 days. We might be having an entirely different conversation in 2 days. And that, to me, is what's going to make this series so fascinating.
JJ, just about a minute to go. We know about the stars in this game. We just talked about them, but we know role players that step up. Who, in your mind, for each team are those most important role players?
Yeah, I would say for Dallas, one of the things that has happened in these playoffs is because of the way teams have adjusted to Kyrie and Luka, they've really taken advantage of the corner 3. Particularly Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington. Those are shots. If you go by sort of shot profile for any NBA team, you want to generate corner threes. That has the highest shot value of any 3-point shot. And so if those guys can get corner threes, if Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford is that vertical lob threat, if they can get behind the defense and create those corner threes for PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr., That's going to be massive. Of course, Boston doesn't want to live in that world. They want to live in an entirely different world where Luka's shooting step back 2-pointers all day long, where Kyrie's shooting fall away contested 2s all day long. So that's sort of the chess match, is how does Dallas generate those threes? Can PJ Washington, like he has done throughout these playoffs, can Derrick Jones Jr., like he has done throughout these playoffs, can those guys knock down the corner three? That's going to be massive. On the Boston side, look, I think it's hard for me to call Jrue Holiday or Derek White role players because I think those guys are stars.
Certainly.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think they're stars. And I last year I had the metaphor of the Alfred, and it's something that has become part of my vernacular when I talk about role players. We always talk about the Batman Robin. We always talk about the 1A and the 1B. It is part of the NBA lexicon. Batman and Robin. Who is the Batman? Who is the Robin?
Yeah. Right.
And you need the Alfred. You need the butler, right? You need the guy who's behind the scenes doing the dirty work. And Derek White, to me, for a long time was the ultimate Alfred. He has graduated. He has been immortalized. His jersey now hangs in the Alfred Hall of Fame. But he is just a star to me. He has no flaws in his game. Jrue Holiday has taken on a completely different role than what he has had for most of his career. Whatever Joe Mazzulla asked of him on a nightly basis, think about this, on a nightly basis, game 1 and game 2 against Tyrese Halliburton. Hey, we need you to guard Joel Embiid in the half court for 25 possessions tonight. Yep. Hey, we're going to go play zone, which we don't have rules for our zone. Go play the middle of the zone and just freelance. And Drew's just like, all right, cool. So for me, for Boston, it's those two guys. Like, they could ultimately be the difference maker in this series. And of course, you look at the matchups, they're going to be guarding Luka and Kyrie at times. And I'm not saying that's going to be the primary matchup. I would expect Jaylen Brown to start on Luka. But Jrue Holiday will have him at times. Derek White, of course, will have him at times. So those two guys for Boston, to me, are sort of the difference makers. The ultimate X factor, of course, is the guy we touched on to begin, which is Kristaps Porzingis, him spacing to 27 feet and bringing those bigs away from the basket.
Right. It's going to be a phenomenal series, and if this is all any indication, an incredible bunch of calls involving our guy, JJ Redick. So, JJ, thank you for the time. Enjoy this week in your hotel room in Boston, and enjoy the cleanup on the back end, brother. We can't wait to hear you.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Claudia Bellafato. Our thanks to ESPN announcer, Old Man of the Three podcast host, JJ Redick, for joining us in that last segment. And Dad, certainly a lot to go on there. Obviously, we touched on it and asked about it with him and weren't going to get much on that front, but we did have the report for anyone that missed it from Shams Charania yesterday over at The Athletic that the Lakers are zeroing in on JJ Redick as a potential head coaching candidate. He says that his focus is on calling these NBA finals right now and that things will come after that. But, Dad, there's been so much smoke here. It's hard not to imagine that there's fire. And the guy he's been doing the podcast with in Mind the Game and LeBron James is probably going to be his star player here in the pretty near future.
Yeah, and listen, I get him not wanting to talk about it. You never want to conduct any kind of business during the championship series of your sport. The league does not like when business is conducted, especially
when you're on the call with its partner network.
Exactly. Yeah, and with when you're talking about the head coach of the Lakers. So I think we all think it's going to happen. We can 1,000% understand him not wanting to get into it now and prepare for a whole lot of reasons. But I think when this series is over, he will be the next head coach of the Lakers. And I'll tell you what, dude can break it down, can't he? I mean, that he just doesn't have enough time to break everything down, which certainly in the game, as you know, you and I know, in a booth, you have X amount of time to break down a play before the next play, and he's in a 3-person booth as well, which makes it tougher. At least when we both believe he's going to be a head coach, he's going to have plenty of time to break things down to the players, that's for sure.
No, there's no doubt. I've always said that calling games and preparing for it is the most like getting ready for a game, and that you have so much information, then you got to go out there and play the game and see what happens and react to that. And you get to use all that material, or as much of it as you do, and then the rest of it goes by the wayside. And so he's been prepping, I'm sure, like a coach in his mind for a while. He always seems to have had that analytical mindset. I mean, hell, he just told us that he cleans his hotel room on the way out and has done so throughout his entire NBA career. So he is meticulous, and he's going to walk in, and there are going to be things he absolutely doesn't know, Dad. But you look on the other side of it, and man, it's just hard to know what NBA teams want at this point. We just had JB Bickerstaff get fired by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the reports coming out afterwards because he was coaching too much. He was doing too much of the job that he was there to do. And obviously, we know you can overcook a situation and overdo it. But I think with JJ being so young, being such a former player, and someone who doesn't come in with all of the coaching polish on him yet, there is a thought that maybe it's going to be more collaborative with him and LeBron and the stars on that team, and he can be a guy that approaches it a different way. And maybe that's something refreshing to them at this point.
And it's all different too, right? We talked about this with first-time head coaches on how they're going to do, and it sounds like the cop-out answer is I don't know, because I don't know their coaching style. I don't know how much, and look at how much he said Joe Mazzulla is into analytics of all the stuff he gets during the games. You know, now JJ, the head coach of the Lakers, he's got a couple of older guys in LeBron and AD who may not be as much into the analytics. And I don't know if JJ is into the analytics. So those are the nuances we don't know. We have no idea what the process is of what they're talking about, if they're talking about it, on how somebody's going to coach or how they're going to react until they're in the situation, until the clock is running and a decision needs to be made. It's one thing to sit on one side of a microphone, get asked a question and talk and lay things out. It's another thing when you got X amount of time to lay out X amount of things and try and get that done under pressure.
It's another thing to basically get a free trial run of this during a multi-part podcast series with the guy that's going to be the star player on your team in the future. You talk about being able to circumnavigate any sort of tampering allegations as if he does land this job. Dad, we talked about this with Caleb Williams, and Courtney Cronin, the ESPN Bears reporter, is going to join us later in the show. Caleb Williams, the story was throughout the draft process, once Chicago knew it was going to be him, as soon as they could, they were getting him bits of their playbook to start going over even before he got there with the rest of the team. Being able to sit and pick the basketball brain and talk shop with the guy in LeBron James who could end up being your most important player seems like a massive advantage. And so that's certainly something that can factor into this, because we know with every new player, with every new coach, the goal is always, first and foremost, connect with your star players so that whatever your message is, disseminates through the locker room through the voice that actually matters. And if that ends up being the case, JJ will have the voice that actually matters already in his corner, at least to start.
And he can actually do it a legal way and say it's show prep for his podcast, right? Because so many people do it illegally, you know, in behind closed doors, you know, illegal tampering. We know there's a couple of cases in the NFL already on that happens all the time. But this is just show prep. Me and LeBron are just getting ready for a show, so I'm just, you know, kind of picking his brain.
Yep, it's going to be fascinating to watch. So again, JJ Redick, kind enough to join us there, going to be on the call coming up here tomorrow night for the entire series, and then a cryptic message for Shams Charania. So Shams, look out, because apparently JJ's got something coming your way. In the meantime, Claudia, let's get some NFL headlines. Something coming the way of Christian McCaffrey. Lots of money, lots and lots of money.
Yeah, so Justin Jefferson, that was the big news the other day, receiver being the highest paid receiver. And Christian McCaffrey was already the highest paid running back, but they said, let's give him a little more money, and I think that's much due. So $38 million over the 2 years is the extension he signed. If you're watching, you can see this graphic. If not, I'll explain. Basically, he's getting $19 million, Alvin Kamara $15, Jonathan Taylor $14, Barkley $12.6, Josh Jacobs $12 million. Those are the only running backs making over $10 million annually in the NFL right now. McCaffrey said of this extension, I think running backs have been undervalued for a long time, and hopefully this is a step in the right direction. This is a conversation we have had several times about the running back market. So let me ask you this, Senior. Do you think this does shake up the running back market? And if it does, how much so?
No, I don't think so, unless you're producing like Christian McCaffrey is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the key here. This guy is by far and away considered the best back because you better be that versatile guy that can line up as a wide receiver, as a slot, run out of the backfield as well. He does it better than anybody. So, I mean, will it up the value of everybody? No, I don't think it will, because it's still going to be on, obviously, production of what you're going to do. I think the biggest thing about this deal from the team aspect is his cap hit. These are nice numbers. His cap hit dropped from 7.4 to 6.6. I mean, that's a pittance nowadays, right? With cap hits. So that to me, the team has to be ecstatic. That's why you do it. Yeah, the guy deserves all the money in the world. His cap hit stays low for now. At some point, that backs up on you, and you have to take care of it. But no, I don't. Just like we talked about with Justin Jefferson getting that deal, and now CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase will probably be in between him and A.J. Brown and up that. I don't think that for the running. Unfortunately, I wish they would. But I don't think that's going to happen until you get a guy that is producing like McCaffrey.
You pay incredibly effective weapons. That's the message the NFL keeps sending us right now. And since Christian McCaffrey came over from Carolina, he has been insanely effective in one of the most versatile offenses in the NFL. He had over 2,000 yards from scrimmage last year, 21 touchdowns, and he's been healthier during this tenure in San Francisco than he was in Carolina. I mean, Nico Collins is making more on an average per year basis than Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. I don't think any of us are under any guise that he's more important to what the Texans do on offense than Christian is to what the 49ers have been able to do since he arrived there and unlocked the best version of Kyle Shanahan's offense we've seen since he's been in San Francisco. So this is a Christian McCaffrey thing here. They add $8 million over that time, but he had no guaranteed money left in this deal that he had come over on. So now he gets those guarantees. He's just turned 28 years old, so he's just going to be right over 30 by the time this deal runs out. It's the perfect time to do this and the perfect player to do it for, because he's been healthy and insanely productive since he's come over to San Francisco. These are the kind of guys you reward.
Yeah, you're still waiting for that running back to beat the 30-year-old curse, right? As soon as you hit 30 and you talk about how production can drop off, well, he's going to be there till then, and we haven't seen the production at that point. So after 30. So that's why these players are trying to get it now. That's why there's the talk of them being undervalued, and how do you increase the value? That's why they had their call last year, which unfortunately isn't going to do a thing. This is an undervalued position compared to the rest of the positions, and it's going to stay that way, but it'll get the trickle effect of a player here, a player there, getting big money when they produce big on the field.
Weapons will get paid. That is the continued message, but we'll find out. ... If a few other weapons that are missing OTAs have a payday coming soon. Next.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. From voluntary OTAs to mandatory mini camps. Dallas Cowboys receiver CeeDee Lamb and 49ers Brandon Ayuk skipped the start of their mandatory mini camps on Tuesday, both seeking long-term extensions as they approach the final year of their rookie contracts. Lamb's teammate Micah Parsons talked about the business side of his receiver's absence.
Oh, I mean, CeeDee about to hit the brink truck. He about to get his, you know. But I can't think of someone more deserving. You talking about hand in hand. I think CeeDee's, you know, the best receiver in the league. If not, if you ever want to argue a top 3, but in my eyes, seeing his mindset, how he comes every day, I think he deserves every penny. So I'm gonna be super excited for him for whatever his contract lays out. But it's gonna be a nice contract for sure.
Expected to be a nice contract, but GoJo, when you talk about this not being voluntary, this is the mandatory period. What are the pros and cons of skipping out here? Does the pros outweigh the cons?
Well, it's sending a message. All these guys are comfortable with the sacrifice of $100,000 per day missed in the name of going out here and recouping millions of dollars, 10x that in the deals that they're getting ready to sign, even though as I sit here and think about it, we still need to not undervalue what it is to just light $100,000 on fire every day you're not doing this. Like, Dad, it's to send a point to this Dallas Cowboys team and to show them physically what it's like. Because some guys in the past have done these, sit in where they'll go to the facility and they'll just not practice to show that. But right. CeeDee Lamb not being there, trying to show that, hey, this is what life could be like if you guys mess around and want to find out with the way that you're going to go about my contract. But this is all just part of the negotiations that we're used to seeing. And with players of this caliber, like when I think of CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, who's talking there, is not going to have to worry about this. These deals eventually get done because these players are so undeniably good. The ones that become interesting to me are Brandon Ayuk right now, who's sitting in a 49ers team that just re-signed Juwan Jennings, just played Christian McCaffrey, just drafted Ricky Pearsall, and has held on to Deebo Samuel in a way that he is saying he is now put on in the rearview mirror. And he has to kind of be doing the math going, all right, I'm not a market-setting receiver. I'm not the best receiver in the NFL. What is this saying about my future plans? If you're Micah Parsons and you're CeeDee Lamb, you don't worry because you're going to be there because you're one of the name guys at a need position. Brandon Ayuk, I have to imagine this is getting a little bit more uncomfortable for him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You're right. You start to do the math and you say there's only so much money to go around and where do you fit? And quickly to the fines, they would lose $16,000 each to miss the first day of camp. If they missed all 3 days of mini camp, it would be a little over $100,000. And then regular camp, once you get there, that's $40,000 a day. And also it's been put into a bargaining agreement that you can't just make that go away. Because remember, guys would rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines, and then they'd come in and the team would waive the fine. You can't waive the fine anymore. I don't know about minicamp. I can't sit here and say for sure about the minicamp, but I know in regular camp you can't waive that. So if you accrue, hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines, you're paying it. But you're right, it's a trade-off to get the millions you're going to get. And you're also right, CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons have nothing to worry about, though it is with Jerry Jones, so you're never really sure. Maybe if you're the quarterback, that's where really you worry, if you're the quarterback of the Cowboys. So, again, CD is supposed to make 50 years, 17 mil, Ayuk 14 mil. They came out the same year in the first round this year if they were to play off their contracts, which they don't want to do. This to me is much ado about nothing. This is standard practice to miss the mini camps. The only difference is what you said. Players have started to do the stay in, the hold in. Is go to the facility. You just don't practice because Godfrey, you do not want to get hurt. You do not want to be running a route and yank a hammy when you're talking about a next contract coming up. But yeah, I think with Lamb, there's zero worry at all. Brandon Ayuk is definitely going to be the interesting one on where he slots in because that's what San Francisco is trying to figure. It probably has in mind where they want him to slot in. And then this is what negotiations hasn't changed from day one till the end of time. A player, wants one thing, the business wants to pay you another thing, and you meet somewhere. Who gives, who has the leverage, who can draw the line in the sand.
Yeah, I think for these guys in particular, remember with the Dallas Cowboys, this is also kind of how they do business, right? We're seeing it happen with Dak Prescott, where they're taking this much further in the process than almost any other organization should. Zach Martin, who's going to wear a gold jacket and be in their Ring of Honor, had to hold out, I believe, into training camp last year to get the deal redone on his end that ultimately got signed there. So the Cowboys tend to take things down to the umpteenth hour. They're a legitimate deadlines drive results kind of organization. And so that happening with CeeDee Lamb shouldn't be all that surprising given the way they've typically done things there. And for Brandon Ayuk, Dad, I think the one we've seen so many receiver contracts go this offseason. I think that's the other part that's got to be frustrating is everybody else at your position's been getting paid this offseason. The comp that came up in the discussion that was had a while back, and our buddy Stats that covers the 49ers brought this up. Devonta Smith was kind of the interesting comparison there. Devonta Smith signed that 3-year, $75 million extension with a little over 33 or just under 34 million guaranteed at signing. That seemed like a deal, given the production similarities between the two, that could be in line for someone like Brandon Ayuk and a team in the 49ers that's focused on the here and now because they know they've got that looming Brock Purdy contract coming.
I would agree. You look at the top average amounts a year they're making. Jefferson is first with 35, then Brown 32, St. Brown 30, Tyreek 30, Waddle 28. That's the top 5. You got to believe CeeDee Lamb is going to be in there. CeeDee Lamb is probably going to be in that 30 range, maybe a little above. So I think he'll be in the top 3, top 4. And then you try and slot Ayuk. You mentioned Smith. He's making 25 a year. He's 8th. Then it's Nico Collins at 24.2, and then it's DK Metcalf, who's number 10 at 24 mil a year. So I'm with you. I think Ayuk more to the bottom of that top 10, and CeeDee Lamb ends up in probably the top 4.
So we've got those two there, and then we've got this situation. Dad, Tua Tagovailoa showing up looking lean. He's got the veneers in at Miami Dolphins camp, and he says, make no mistake about it, he is not blind to what's happening around him.
I mean, I'm not blind to people that, are in my position that are getting paid. Am I concerned about it? I'm not concerned about it, but there's a lot of discussions, that we've had that, we just are trying to move that thing into the right direction where we can both be happy. So that's what it is.
Dad, most estimations have Tua Tagovailoa getting a deal somewhere near what Justin Herbert got. 5 years, $262 million, close to $195 million guaranteed. Would you be comfortable paying him that in Miami?
Well, I mean, yeah, listen, is it a matter of comfort or is it a matter of this is business, right? This is the marketplace. Look what he was doing, led the league in receiving yards. I mean, he did what was asked of him to do of the team they're building around him. So to me, it's not a matter of, I don't know if anybody's comfortable as an owner.
Well, I mean, Dad, you hand
like
Josh
that.
Allen that kind of contract. You hand Lamar Jackson that kind of contract. You're a lot more comfortable than you are doing it in this situation because those guys in the way that they've produced would give you that feeling, right?
Okay, all right, yes, you're more comfortable with those guys, but in my estimation, you don't have a choice, right? Your window is open right now. I always come to this. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if you don't want to pay him and he actually would sit out, and not play and you lose this? I mean, you've got a pretty damn good team where we think it is Buffalo coming down a little bit because of a lot of changes in the offseason. Is it Miami that could take over that division? I called that last game, Buffalo and Miami. In Miami, that Buffalo won, and then Miami in the cold went and got beat by Kansas City. But they're looking to take that next step. You're going to have to take it with a really good quarterback, and Tua has been doing that. So, yes, would I not be very comfortable? No, but I also don't think I have much of a choice.
Yeah, I think the Shanahan-McVay quarterbacks are always kind of an interesting conundrum for people in terms of how we evaluate them in these systems that are so incredibly helpful. But I think you're right. Timing is everything, and Tua had his best season at the time it mattered most, and this Dolphins team is built to contend right now. We've seen a lot of other teams structure paydays accordingly with that. We understand there are limited bites at the apple in this league. And we've got that opportunity right now with the roster they've got offensively that's going to have to overcome some losses defensively, puts an even bigger premium on what Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and the rest of that offense can do heading into the 2024 season.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. We have some updates on betting scandals in Major League Baseball. But before we get to that, a reminder that if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg.draftkings.com for more information, resources, tips, and tools. It can easily connect you to all of the responsible gaming resources you may need, because when it comes to betting, it's more fun when it's for fun. Major League Baseball suspended 5 players Tuesday for betting on baseball, including a lifetime ban on Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano after determining that the infielder placed hundreds of bets on baseball, including on the Pirates when he played with them last season. Another update in the Shohei Ohtani scandal, his former interpreter Ippei Mizuhara pleaded guilty to bank and tax fraud charges during a change of plea hearing in federal court on Tuesday morning, 2 counts that carry a max sentence of 33 years. And I think the end result and sort of the lesson learned from these is everybody wants to put gambling and legalized gambling in a bad light, but it's actually showing that legalized gambling is great, because this is what flagged down these certain situations. Yeah. And this actually helped, this come to light and the feds get involved and these people be punished, which hopefully will prevent further lessons having to be learned, Senior.
Yeah, it does. It red flags it. It's working exactly how it should. From the legalized gambling standpoint, is to flag these type of situations. And the leagues are doing exactly what they should be doing if someone is breaking that, is especially betting on their own teams. Ban them for life. You have to make a punishment worth not doing, right? I mean, when you discipline kids, you want to discipline to the point where what they did wrong, you don't want them to do it again. That's kind of the idea. So, I mean, and one of the things you have to look at, I remember this during the steroids issue we were talking about with Bonds and Clemens and McGuire and everybody. You talked about the stars there, right? But I guarantee you 95% of the people that use steroids in sports are not the stars. They're guys trying to make it, trying to stay in the league or get to the league. And I would say the same thing with the gambling. Now, you sit there and look at a guy like Marcano, who was making, I think, $276,000 this year. It's a lot of money to a normal American, right? But in baseball, there's a hell of a lot more to be had, but he's not making it. So the guys that aren't making the big money are probably going to be the guys who are trying to get away with this. And they got caught. And exactly what he's the last person to be banned for life was when Pete Rose agreed to be banned for life back in the 80s. For his gambling when he was a player and manager. So this is the next one, and this is exactly what you need to do. Ban them for life. Show that you're not going to do this, and also, again, that it is working and red flagging, and we're picking this up. So we could sit there and shake our head, Mike, at, my God, why do these guys do it? Why? They're playing professional sports. They're making good money. Why do they go down this road? Everybody's got their reasons.
Yeah, everybody does, and I think it's also kind of recognizing your station in life. Like Shohei Ohtani, Major League Baseball announced the other day, was cleared of any wrongdoing in this. They concluded their investigation that he had no involvement in what went on with Ippei Mizuhara, his former interpreter now. But even if he had a much better opportunity of being able to skate all of this than any of these guys. If you're a back end of the roster dude and you give them a reason to make an example of you like this, they're going to rightly take it, because at this juncture where all of this is still new and big, and while gambling's been around forever, it's not been this overt. This is the time where all of the leagues, and we've seen it in college, we've seen it in the NFL, we've seen it in Major League Baseball and the NBA now, have taken an opportunity to suspend somebody for a long time to let everybody know, hey, those signs we put up in the facility, those aren't just for fun. We play for keeps around here, and at this point in time, the league's protecting the idea of the integrity of the game at a time where gambling is much more of the conversation than it's ever been. Hell, we do a show on a gambling network. All of this is new and different than usual, and you have got to clearly draw the battle lines right now when it comes to the players in the field. And I know some people want to say that that's hypocritical, but man, these rules have been in place for so long relative to that yes, I understand these leagues have gambling partners, and they're making money off that. And based on how revenue splits and collective bargaining work, usually that means players are also making some money off of that. But to me, that still doesn't change the truth in the middle of all of this, that betting on your sport, especially on the team that you play for, has always been a bad thing, and they've just got an easier method to catch you doing it now.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at basketball, Jonte Porter, I mean, there's degrees, right? There's just betting on your team to win or lose. And then there's being involved enough to tell people who are betting, who are making the bets, I'm going to pull myself out of the game. I'm going to, say I'm sick. I'm going to say I have an injury, and really having, I mean, that's completely the integrity of the game, even though it's not a star player by any stretch of the imagination at all. So these are things that have to be done, and I'm glad it's now getting red flagged more, and you catch these guys, and you got to pay the price. You got to, just like they're doing, you got to drop the hammer hard.
Yep, no one's surprised here at what went on. Claudia, switching gears a little bit, we talked so much about the WNBA yesterday. Let's revisit a little bit of what went on last night, because I think there's a couple of things we talked about in the lead up to last night's game that ended up bearing fruit.
Yes, Chicago Sky rookie Angel Reese, who had a lot to say about the Caitlin Clark situation, got ejected last night. 2 technical fouls in the fourth. 88-75 loss to the Liberty, but of course the fouls were the topic of conversation. The ref came out after saying it was because she disrespectfully addressed the official and then waved her hand in dismissal after the first tech. Here's Sky head coach Teresa Witherspoon on the incident.
What was your view of the technicals, I guess, and the ejection? And did anybody tell you what the reasoning for it was?
I tried to get an explanation. I did not. I don't know to this moment what has happened.
And like I said, the ref came out after and explained why it was. I want to get your take on this, but interesting nugget too. Lonzo Ball was at the game, he was watching, and then he tweeted out after saying, "Don't waste your money, Angel Reese. I got you." Only $400, a little bit cheaper than NBA, but I guess nice nonetheless, GoJo.
No, it is. But you know what? The point to me was, obviously the universal truth that there are refs that are going to have soft ejections in almost every sport. And this was softer than, baby, this ejection for Angel Reese. No way she should have been tossed out of this game. But Dad, you saw Lonzo and a bunch of the Bulls there saying, hey, this is their first time going out there. And man, they really enjoyed what they saw. They were showing love to Breanna Stewart on the other side. This is what we talked about, is the microscope now that's on this league, or I should say the magnifying glass on this league for more people to see, was on full display. Kennedy Carter, who was the subject of conversation in so much negative light with the interaction with Caitlin Clark the other day, I got to watch the first half of that game before I left for dinner last night, was a blur on the court. And that's what she was talking about. There's so much more to her story as a player. And you got to see all of that good last night in a game that they kept close with one of the best teams in the league in the New York Liberty for a long time, in large part because of her effort. So I think a lot of that stuff that we heard players from the W, analysts talking about the other parts of the game that deserve focus, got some of that in positive ways, even if this might be the headline from yesterday.
Yeah, I'm with you. More and more eyes on it. We keep talking about, listen, it continues to be headlines. And again, do we say the WNBA wants headlines where you get an unbelievably soft ejection? Probably no, but being talked about it, and in the course of it being talked about, just what you mentioned, you get a high pro, even though he's been injured for a while, a high profile guy, NBA guy, talking about this, and we've heard them talk about it before. But can I just say I'm with you? Now, it was her 5th foul, but also the first tech, I don't know what she said to the ref. And just for everybody out there are magic words of what you say, and do you say it to the ref, about the ref, or just say it in general? So I can't say much about the first tech because I don't know what she said. If you're telling me that second technical was because she waved her hand the way she did, then that's about as soft as you can be from the official. I hope somebody talks to those officials and say, listen, toughen up here. I mean, they wave your hand as they're walking away, and you get so hurt by that, you tee them up a second time, knowing full well that tee is it. That's 2 T's, right? So, I mean, that was ridiculous. So while we're getting a lot more eyes on the WNBA, we're getting a lot more eyes on the WNBA to some other things as well.
Hey, you know what? But that's universal. Those headlines they can take. The other stuff, we can leave behind. The headline we love coming up next, all the smoke. Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes going to join us to preview the finals next on GoJo and Golic.
We're back here on GoJo and Golic, and we are one sleep away from the NBA Finals Game 1 here in Boston. This line holding steady with the Celtics as 6.5-point favorites, despite us getting the news that Porzingis is set to play in Game 1. How effective he will be, we don't know. Over 70% of the bets, though, at DraftKings Sportsbook on the Dallas Mavericks. The guys caught up with the All the Smoke crew to break it all down.
All right, pumped here to bring in some of our favorite teammates, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. You guys can catch them. Obviously, All the Smoke, one of the best podcasts in the business, former NBA champions. Taking it on the road right now, too. I know you guys were in Detroit. You're in Chicago right now, so very cool. An evening with All the Smoke. Got to be nice getting out in front of the fans. So how you guys doing this morning? We appreciate the time.
We're well. Summertime in Chi, like Kanye said, man. We've been up early this morning. We did some local news, some radio stations, and definitely glad to catch up with you guys.
You said that one of the biggest podcasts. That means a lot coming from y'all when y'all are the biggest.
I don't know about that, man. We're trying to. You guys have been at this for a while now. Was it 5 years now?
Yeah, 5 years. Yep.
5 years. That is impressive. I've got, this is, I think, about between ESPN and now about the fourth or fifth year I've been working with my son. This is, I'm doing an interesting little take on Take Your Son to Work Day, and I've had him with me for work for the last 4 years. He just won't go away.
Can't shake him, huh?
No. Exactly. No, can't shake him now here, but the partnerships worked out well for everyone there. And so we're pumped to have you guys here, man. We got the long break between the NBA's conference finals and the actual finals getting started here. So plenty of time to dive in and sink our teeth into a bunch of stuff here. And this is a really interesting series for me, guys. I think starting with the Boston Celtics, this team that's been so great for the entire season, has so much pressure on them here now. Where are you guys at with Jason Tatum? I feel like he's become the focus of a lot of the conversation around this team and how people view him. How do you guys view him as one of the stars in the current NBA stratosphere?
I think he has an opportunity to be one of the next faces. But I think for some reason, a championship needs to be attached to that. You know, normally it's, young guys are coming up and they obviously earned it. But I think, Jason Tatum's success out of the gate, he conference finals rookie year, been to the finals a couple times. And I think people are waiting on that jump for him. I'm a big fan of Jason Tatum. I think he's one of the most talented players, but I do agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on his team as a whole to win this one.
Jaylen Brown was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. If they win it this year and he's the Finals MVP, does this become Jaylen Brown's team over Jason Tatum's team?
Well, I think if any team, these two guys have an understanding, right? Tatum was the first to get his big deal, and I think Brown took the step back. Let's see what we can do with you being the A1 guy. I think now that Brown has got his deal, and they haven't had haven't won a championship yet. I think now that Brown has taken the lead this year, and I think Tatum is kind of stepping back and let him take the lead, and they've been having success. So I think they're trying it this way with Brown taking the lead and see if they can get the championship done.
I think that's an interesting question, though, because, anytime you speak Celtics, Tatum is the first name that comes up. You know what I mean? And Brown has kind of always been Robin, so to speak. But, I mean, I think you pose a great question. If they win and Brown leads them, it'll be an interesting discussion.
Well, I think Tatum also gets a lot of scrutiny. Or do you guys see or feel that, where I feel like he's discussed, maybe it's because his demeanor, maybe he doesn't have as much bite or snarl to his game as someone like Luka on the other side, but it feels like people are asking even more of him, despite a guy who's been talented, a perennial Eastern Conference Finals contender. Do you guys feel like he's highly scrutinized?
That's a LeBron effect. We wanted LeBron to be a more passionate player, Michael Jordan and Kobe at the end of games. That's just not in his DNA. We want Tatum to be more like Anthony Edwards, more passionate, more into the game and all like that. That's maybe just not in his DNA, but he's getting the job done. He's getting to the Eastern Conference Finals every year. He's been to the finals. So even though he's not the most passionate guy, most outspoken guy, this guy that's showing the most energy, he's still winning. And Boston has been one of the best teams in the league since he's been there.
Yeah, you can't ask somebody to be something they're not if he's just not that way. But you know what? If he's still a damn good player, just let him be who he is. As far as, Matt, let me start with you getting ready for this series. How do you prepare for it with not sure about Porzingis?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. To me, he was the key to this series for them because of the young, active bigs that Dallas has. Porzingis has been off, by the time game one starts, nearly 40 days. And calf strains are tricky. You saw Giannis shut it down when he got his calf strain at the beginning of the playoffs at the end of the season. Kevin Durant on the flip side, 4 or 5 years ago, tried to come back off a calf strain, and we saw what happened to him. So I think, Porzingis is someone who's been injury prone. We're really hoping that, when he does come back, he will be ready. But, as a former athlete, Mike, it takes a minute to get back in game shape. You can do everything you want in the world on the side, but until you're actually between those lines, it's night and day.
And to touch on that, he can't have the Karl Anthony Towns syndrome, with just standing out there shooting threes. Because if that happens, the big guys from Dallas are going to punish them with 2-pointers all game, dunks, high percentage shots. I'd rather take twos all night than wild threes.
No, I think we definitely saw that bear out. That toughness inside for Dallas has been a huge part of the second half of this season run that this team has made. But we've also talked about, you mentioned that backcourt, so let's stick with those guys. I want to start with Kyrie Irving, who we've known and seen on big stages through so much of his NBA career already. But after the stop in Boston, the stop in Brooklyn, the conversation around him seemed to change. So what has been different about Kyrie Irving in Dallas, especially this season, that's allowed him to get back to the guy that we saw for so many years?
If they're showing up to the game and somebody asks you about your personal life, about your wife, about your home, obviously you're gonna be a little defensive and stand up, because I'm here to play basketball. I'm not here to talk about my personal life. So he's in a great situation with Cuban, a great guy, a great coach, and Jason Kidd, who's been there, who has all the experience in the world. And I think he's with a group of guys that's embraced him, allowing him to be him. And that's with any job you have, when you appreciate it, I think you give your best, and I think that's what he's going through in Dallas.
I think too. I think him personally has silenced the outside noise. There was a lot of outside noise in Boston. There was a ton of outside noise, whether it be personal choice, whatever it may be in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? So I think he is first and foremost happy where he's at. We had a chance to sit down with Mark Cuban, and he just discussed their dynamic in the relationship and how much he loves Kai. And again, like Jack said, when you're appreciated, where you're at and everybody is for you, not saying those previous stops, they weren't, but it's really sticking out. And the question has never been about his talent on the court. It's just been about the distractions off the court. And I think he's been able to silence those. And we're seeing the best Kyrie Irving I think we've ever seen.
Steven, let me start with you on this one. For Luka, in the MVP race this year, and I've always hated, in my sport of football, I hated that they put rings on quarterbacks. How many rings you got at Super Bowl as a quarterback? Because there's defense and there's special teams. I put it more in the NBA because you have so much effect, one player being on there offensively and defensively, and amazingly enough for Dallas, we've used the word defense this year. What does winning a title for Luka mean for him and his legacy?
Well, I mean, Luka wins the title this year. He's definitely the best player in the league. He's already the leading scorer in the league with regular season. I think a title, he would be solidified as the best player in the league. We gave that title to Jokic. We had Jokic reigning champion when he was doing all things and back-to-back MVPs. I think Luka's making a name for himself now. He's stepping up. If he wins this championship, Luka can be the face of the league after this championship.
And I also think, too, I mean, if obviously you never want to be caught up in the moment and his career has to play out. I mean, I think, if Luka continues on the pace he is and has success when it comes to winning championships, we're going to be talking about Luka in 10 or 15 years, and to me, in the greatest of all time conversations. I think when he's been able to do at his young age, how he was ready when he hit this stage running. I mean, the amount of points he already has in his young career. I think Luka is on his way to, first and foremost being the greatest European player, which is saying a lot because a lot of great players have come from there. But I think when it's all said and done, if he continues on this trajectory and is able to get some championships along the way, we're going to talk about Luka as one of the all-time greats.
What is it about his game specifically that stands out most that you think is like the defining trait that separated Luka from so many people in this conversation?
You can't rush him. You can't rush him. He plays at his own pace. He plays, everyone talks about his body, and he plays his own game, plays his own pace. It feels like he's been here before, like he's already had some of the league back in his prior life. You know what I mean? So Luka came into this as one of the most game ready young players we've ever seen, from the time he stepped on the floor, similar to LeBron, he was out there and he was producing. So I think the main thing when I look at Luka is just he plays at his pace and nobody can change that no matter how good a defense you try to play on him.
So let me follow up on that because, and I don't know how true you hear about reports, and you guys certainly would be great at answering this as well. There's 4 other guys on the court. What happens to those guys? When you said Luka can do his thing and take his time, but what does that do? Now, they are in the NBA Finals, so there has been some success, but what does this do to the other 4 on the court when one guy holds the ball that long?
Well, that's everybody has a role to play. Be a star in your role. I think they have an identity now, and the identity is Luka runs the show. When Luka subs out or when he's not going or has missed 2 in a row, we go to Kyrie. But the whole time when these 2 guys are making plays or have the ball, they're making plays for other guys. They're making everybody better. PJ's getting open shots because of Kyrie and Luka on the ISO. They're getting the lob plays because they're getting double and so much attention is paid to them. So their best offense is having the ball in these 2 guys' hands because they make everybody better and they give everybody open shots. So I think they just have an identity of these 2 guys being a vocal point of the offense, and it's working.
I think the growth in Luka's game, because it hasn't always been this way. When he first came in the league, he was very ball dominant and he shot the ball a lot. I think the growth in his game is, to what Jack says, being able to get his teammates going, understanding if I have the basket lob threat going, if I have my outside shooters going, I'm going to see less double teams when it comes down to one-on-one. So I think both these guys, Luka and Kyrie, understand that although they're amazing scorers, being able to get the rest of their team going only makes their job offensively, individually, easier.
And to get back on that, if Cat would have posted up and forced the double teams in Minnesota, it probably would have been a different series because Anthony Edwards had to work so hard for all his shots. He didn't get any good looks. if Cat would have got double teamed and he would have got some open shots, that would have helped their game. But that's don't matter now.
You brought up Cat a couple of times. Do you think he can change at this point in his career and be more of what they need? Because Ant's kind of taken that next step now to where everyone's going to have expectations for this team.
He just has to take pride in being Robin to Batman, and he has to be the best Robin he can. And I think that's what Kyrie's doing in Dallas. That's what a lot of guys are doing on different teams. Just being the best supporter you can be. And I think he needs to get back into that and understand his Ant's team now.
I think Cat again. I think that was the biggest point. With whose team was it? Was clearly Anthony Edwards' teams. But I think Cat can change. But I think he'll learn a lot from this experience he went through this year and understanding that I think he knows he settled a lot for outside shots, and they were guarding him with 2 guards and 3 guards when he's a power forward. And I think he has the versatility in this game, but I think he fell in love with the 3-ball this playoff run. So I think he'll probably watch film and he hears everybody talking about it because he is one of the most versatile 4-men in this game. He just has to show the versatility and not fall in love with the 3-point ball so much.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fascinating to watch that Minnesota team going forward. No doubt about that. I did want to ask you guys about coaching. One of you guys brought up Jason Kidd before. Do you think there's a team that has the coaching advantage in this series between him and Joe Mazzulla?
I think Jason Kidd does. I think Jason Kidd has been here as a player. Obviously, his defensive philosophy on this Dallas team, I think you guys mentioned earlier, they're playing defense, which is not something you would look at this Dallas team to do. But I think Jason Kidd has his imprint all over this team. I think one of the weaknesses, but that's not to say Joe Mazzulla won't be ready, because I think he got out-coached last year in the playoffs at times with timeouts and executions down the stretch and when to go and when not to go. So I think he also learned, because coaches learn in the offseason too. So I definitely think the advantage goes to Kidd, but I think, Mazzulla has taken his knocks, in the short time he's been a head coach, and he'll definitely be prepared for the finals as well.
I gotta, I love to talk about the role players. I swear, I think Daniel Gafford's middle name is Alley-oop. I mean, he has just been the recipient of so many great lobs. It's been incredible. Just hang out by the rim. The ball's going to come up there to you. Two from me, one serious and one fun. As far as the serious one, Stephen, let me start with you. Who do you like in this series?
Who do I like in this series?
Yeah.
Dallas.
Kyrie.
Right. I'm team Kyrie all day long.
Okay. Matt?
I got Boston. Again, big fan of Jason Tatum. See him in the summer, what kind of work he puts in. He's in LA all summer, so we train at the same gym. Just really a big fan of him and looking forward to him.
Light skin thing? Good hair? Light skin, good hair?
Possibly.
Pretty boy. It's a pretty boy thing.
I'm not confirming or denying that. But, more than anything, I think these two teams are more evenly matched than people think. Dallas is playing great at the right time. Boston has been the best team in the league all season, hoping for KP to come back. So again, I think I'm praying for just a healthy finals, and I think it'll go 7 games. And to me, I think we all win if it goes 7 games.
Completely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. All right, the fun one. Austin Rivers came out a while ago and talked about more NBA players could play in the NFL than NFL in the NBA. So forgetting the sport, just those two, football and basketball, and pick any sport. Stephen, let me start with you. If you could have been a pro in another sport, which one could you have been a pro in?
I just don't want to be in no conversation with Austin Rivers' names involved. Like, why is his name even involved? Like, I don't even want to answer a question with his name is phrased in it. Like, Austin Rivers is somebody not relevant nowhere.
All right. Let me ask you this then. When you were young, then what other sport did you play that you think you maybe could have gone further in other than basketball?
Running from the cops.
Well, I was good at that. I was leading the league.
It's a good skill.
Hey, yeah. I'm always free, huh?
I was one that wasn't as good at that, and that's why I ended up with a mugshot in college. So I needed to be better at that.
I got those too, though. I run all of them. For me, I would say football. I played quarterback and receiver. And if I would have been able to have been serious at it and wasn't as good as basketball growing up, I would have played football, baseball, but mostly football. They pulled me off around middle school because they seen I had a talent in basketball and they didn't want me to get hurt. But I was catching touchdowns and all that, and I just didn't take it serious. But basketball was just something that I was better at.
For me, I was an All-American in football.
Yeah, he was a real
I was the
man.
number one receiver coming out of high school, and I chose the longevity of basketball because at the time I didn't really see 6'8" receivers. Obviously Mike back in your time, maybe a little bit before Harold Carmichael with the Eagles.
Yes. Yeah.
Outside of that, Tony Gonzalez at the time was the next biggest guy, so I chose basketball for the long haul. But I think to track back to what Austin Rivers said, I think the crossover, and I say this with all due respect because making it professional sports is, you got a better chance of getting struck by lightning. But I think the crossovers is easier for basketball going to football than you see football going to basketball. And I think the way Austin said it with the arrogance and the knowing, even though he's never really played the game, I think that's what rubbed people the wrong way. And the fact that he said 30 guys can do it, completely disagree. I think there's a handful of guys, maybe 2 or 3, depending on positions. But Mike, more than anything, football is a mentality. Obviously, it takes a lot of skill to play, but it's also a mentality. You got to be a dog out there. So I think there's a couple of guys in the NBA that could possibly transition over to do it, and we've seen it in the Antonio Gates and the Jimmy Grahams and some of those guys. But to make it in professional sports, period, is is a complete blessing. But I like to respect everyone's grind and everyone's journey. But if to me the big question at that time was, what's the easier crossover? And I feel like someone who played both at a high level, I think nothing is easy, but you see more basketball guys able to cross over to football than football guys cross over to basketball.
Yeah, and Austin Rivers can't speak.
Austin Rivers' delivery was, listen, I agree. Yeah. Austin Rivers' delivery was awful in that thing. But to your point, I agree. The football player, I think the NBA could transition to the NFL better than NFL to NBA. The biggest transition for me would be the first time you take a shot over the middle. That would be, while basketball is a contact sport, football is a collision sport. So that first shot over the middle may make your eyes water a little bit.
And a lot of NBA players cry from elbows without pads. So a lot of them soft. Austin Rivers one of them. He's soft too.
You know what? Like I say, nothing soft about the crew over at All the Smoke, man. You guys are the best. Matt, Steven, always great to catch up with you guys, man. Enjoy this tour, and I'm sure there's more dates coming up here that people are going to be excited about to see you guys out and about in person. But enjoy that, enjoy the finals, and hopefully we'll get to catch up with you guys again soon, all right?
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
A full day of NBA previews and finals look-aheads. But coming up next, we look back on a couple of incredible careers now eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame. Some very familiar names, and one we need to insert into the conversation yet again to try and help these people out. Next on GoJo and Golic.
Former college coaches Nick Saban and Urban Meyer have entered their first year of eligibility. That is the word. For the College Football Hall of Fame. You could throw me any word, I'd nail it, but no, okay.
Boy, you have really become a part of our family, Claudia. Tripping over your own tongue is a uniquely Golic trait, so I feel like we have dragged you down into the mud with us.
Well, the worst part is when you say it the second time, like, oh, okay, I got this, and then you mess that up. But whatever, okay? They qualify to enter. Saban on the ballot just 5 months after retiring as Bama's head coach, but criteria says as long as you are 70 years old, you can enter immediately. He's 72. Meyer eligible because he has been at least 3 full seasons removed from head coaching. The two have combined for 10 national championships, 479 wins since 1990. So, Senior, yes, I think they qualify.
Yeah, they qualify, and they're going to get in. It's always interesting seeing the names come up again because especially those that we knew in the pro game so well, they're going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, forgetting sometimes what their college career was like and how good they are. So, Mike, again, this ballot is just littered with great players that we have last seen in the NFL, but go back to those college years, and you just, again, you're just like, wow, yeah, I almost forgot what they did in college.
There's a couple interesting things on this ballot. So Claudia mentioned the two coaches that are up there, and obviously Urban Meyer and Nick Saban are both College Football Hall of Famers here. What I will say is College Football's Hall of Fame is interesting when it comes to coaches in that you have requirements. You have to have at least a 600 winning percentage and have coached in 100 games. In a sport as chaotic and unscientific as college football, and whether that's the way that we legislate the postseason in this sport, the way we've decided it historically with those things being media voted on here, and all these different things claiming titles, it seems idiotic to me that you would apply this stringent of a rubric in something like this for college football coaches. Again, not for these guys because by any metric, they're going to get in. But it seems like a bad recipe to leave out a lot of deserving candidates. I saw Josh Pate talking the other day about Mike Leach and how his candidacy probably won't qualify for this under those stringent marks. So a dumb way to do that, I think, if you're the College Football Hall of Fame. But these two guys will be fine and immune to any of that. But I don't understand that given the way the sport operates, why you would do that so differently than what it feels like most other Hall of Fames do. And then, Dad, from the players' side of things well, actually, you know what? I'll stick here with the coaches. Dad, these two guys were prolific name brand coaches. Alabama, Nick Saban was the figurehead there for so long. Urban Meyer, a little bit different, obviously. Started off his career, certainly there was the Bowling Green aspect of it, but really burst onto the scene at Utah, then his time at Florida, full of scandal, but also championships, Ohio State, able to win there as well. Do you think in this modern age, with what we've got in college football, the changing landscape, that we're in line for many more coaches like this, specifically, I think, like Saban, that'll be able to have a tenure like that at one school?
Well, I mean, if the young coaches now, because they know this landscape, right? We've seen Nick Saban talk about the landscape now, and his wife talked about basically what are we doing? This has gotten so crazy. But the young coaches now, this is what they're used to. This is the norm for them. They're used to coaching in it. So, while it seems tough that we're going to get these decades long tenures, I can't say it's not going to happen. I mean, coaches, my coaches are nuts, man. Coaches want to coach. Doesn't matter how old they are. For Saban, it was a circumstance really that changed. I think he still loves coaching, just like we all still love playing, but we just can't play anymore. The coaching, sometimes the landscape changes. So, yeah, could I see it? Yeah, with one of these young coaches, because while the landscape is going to still shift some more, I think we've seen a big shift that these newer coaches and younger coaches are getting used to. So it's just a new crop of guys. And we know some of these young coaches, their names already. So can they have the longevity?
Yep, I think you're right. I think we've got, between some holdover guys, guys like Dabo Swinney, who's already been a champion in college football many times over, Kirby Smart and what George has become right now, and even some of the up-and-comers. I do think it could look a lot more like what we've had with, say, an Urban Meyer, where it might not all be at one school, especially the way things reorg going forward. But we have so much change coming on that front. That could be a story for another day. Those are no-brainers. as are a couple of the players that are up for this one now. First-time players on the ballot this season include Pitt's Aaron Donald, which should be a no-brainer there. Some of the most prolific, especially his last couple of years at Pitt. Some of the tackle for loss and sack numbers, absurd by any metric there. And then you get some other interesting ones, Dad. Mark Ingram, one of the Heisman Trophy winners at Alabama back in 2009. At running back, a prolific college career there at the beginning of the Saban dynasty. Cal wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, and then my former teammate, Heisman runner-up Manti Te'o, our linebacker at Notre Dame, back from 2009 to 2012. And, Dad, I firmly believe Manti is going to be in there at some point. He won basically every award that you could win as a college football defensive player short of the Heisman, and it was really close with Johnny Manziel back in 2012. 7 interceptions as an off-ball middle linebacker, just absurd production in that way. I have a feeling he's going to be one of those guys there in a school at Notre Dame that's got prolific history, including my Uncle Bob, which still feels like one of the biggest travesties on planet Earth that he's not in the College Football Hall of Fame, given what his career looked like there.
So quickly on Manti, 2012 unanimous first-team All-American, but what really is going to put him in, he was the first player in history to sweep the Maxwell, Walter Camp, Bednarik, Butkus, Lombardi, and Nagurski awards in the same season. So you're getting in on that. As far as my brother Bob, when I was looking up the criteria, you have 50 years from your graduation. So my brother Bob actually has until 2029 for this. And I was looking as well at, you have to be nominated from the current athletic director or current coach at the school that they played at. So that would be, Pete Bavacqua now here at Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman being the coach or the administration here. And I would like to find out why my brother Bob hasn't made this ballot. Now, and I will say again, this takes nothing away from the linebackers that have gone in at Notre Dame. Last year, I believe it was Michael Stonebreaker, deservedly so to be in this Hall of Fame. Bob Crable, the all-time leading tackler at Notre Dame, in the Hall of Fame. Completely agree with that. My brother Bob is second to Bob Crable all-time tackles at Notre Dame. My brother Bob was a unanimous All-American. He was an All-American his junior year. Senior year, he was a unanimous All-American. And junior year was the MVP of the Cotton Bowl, where they beat Texas, which included Earl Campbell, the Heisman Trophy winner. My brother Bob was the MVP of that game. Notre Dame destroyed him in that game and won the national championship. So how, as a unanimous All-American, 2-time All-American, 1-time unanimous All-American, second leading tackler all-time to Bob Crable, which means he has more than Michael Stonebreaker, more than Manti Te'o at Notre Dame, and how he isn't on the ballot, I don't know. So I want to try and find that out. To me, he has all the credentials. And this is the College Football Hall of Fame, so it doesn't bring in the wrestling that he did when he placed in the NCAA in wrestling as well, and went on to have the pro career that he did. So it still befuddles me. I want to try and find that out. I'll see if there's anything that can be done. Like I said, he's got 5 more years to be on the ballot, but his stats match up to a lot of these other linebacker stats that I've seen, not just at Notre Dame, but others as well, of guys who are in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, for Stonebreaker, happy for him. For Manti, going to be happy for him. He's incredibly deserving of it. I mean, we were number 1 in the country in large part because Manti and that defense completely lifted up that team, gave us so many extra opportunities on offense. You could look over and understand that Manti and that group were going to give you every opportunity. They were like a brick wall on that side of the football for so much of that season. And obviously, Manti has been talked about so much in the last couple of years because of the documentary and the rehashing of his story. And everything that went on with the Lene Kakua situation, but that does obscure that there was a fantastic player in there, but as was also the case for my Uncle Bob, your brother Bob. So hopefully at some point you can get an answer on that, because there's a lot of great players in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he certainly deserves to be named amongst that group as well. So congratulations to everybody that is up for it this year. We'll be excited to see who lands in there. Some other great holdover names, Sean Taylor in there, Michael Vick from last year. But coming up next, we'll get to a couple of the great young names heading into the NFL, including the number 1 pick Caleb Williams, and a progress report from the offseason program in Chicago next. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Claudia Bellafato. And as we look ahead to more of the NFL season, longingly, we're so close, yet so far away. But thankfully, we got the offseason program to sustain us with a bunch of juicy headlines and great announcements as we got the Chicago Bears on Hard Knocks announced in the last couple of weeks. So for more on that, the progress report for Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, excited to welcome in ESPN Bears reporter Courtney Cronin now with us on the show. And Courtney, good morning. Are you ready for your cameos that I'm sure will pop in the background of Hard Knocks at some point this fall?
You don't want to be the person who gets somebody fired up at the podium and that's the clip that they use. And I was trying to think, I was like, who would do that on the Bears? Like, which player would end up having the back and forth with you if you asked a bad question and got your 15 minutes of fame on HBO? Maybe it'd be Jalen Johnson. I couldn't, I really hope that that's not how we get on the show, but I'm sure there will be some shot of me in golf attire at training camp at some point, considering this thing starts. And you guys are talking about the off season. I think we're back July 20th. So it's coming quick.
Can't come quick enough, except when I was a player, then I could use it could take a while. So I'm always interested, Courtney, in Hard Knocks. You know who you want, the big name players, right? Certainly Caleb Williams, Matt Eberflus. I don't know after we got Dan Campbell, I don't know if Matt can match something like that. But I'm trying to think of, can you think of any players other than who the stars are that may kind of become the stars of this with their personality? Because it always happens.
So I think the easy answer there, even though he's a backup quarterback, is still Tyson Bagent. You know the story of his rise from Division II Shepherd all the way to the Chicago Bears. He played in 4 games last year. His dad is a world arm wrestling champion. That's got TV written all over it. And then I said this a couple days ago, and I'm going to stick by this. I think Tevin Jenkins, the left guard for the Chicago Bears, who's in a contract year, who was nearly off this team a couple years ago, thought he was going to get traded after they made him go from left tackle to right guard, overcoming a ton of injuries along the way. He seems ready-made for this. Like, his story is one I think a lot of people are going to get behind, and I think both of you guys would resonate with this. People love offensive linemen, and he is a character. He's so fun to talk to. I believe we're going to be talking to him today at mandatory minicamp, and he seems like somebody who's really going to buy into that process of a little added extra screen time for himself. And throughout this process of where he's at now in year 4, I think he's got a pretty compelling story.
He's a part of a much improved position group over the last couple of years, and of the organization with the O-line GM. It feels right that it would be an O-line centric Hard Knocks to some extent. So we love that. But Courtney, we know everyone looking longingly at Caleb Williams and some of his progress this offseason. That'll be highlighted in the show. But from what you've seen so far from OTAs and now heading into mandatory minicamp, what has the diagnosis been of Caleb Williams' early return so far as the Bears quarterback?
The practices have been up and down, which I think you would expect. I think you'd be a little worried if Caleb Williams comes in and starts torching your defense that has been in the same system for 3 years. And, most of these guys have been playing for at least a year, but that's secondary. I think you can stack that up against anybody's in the NFL. They've been letting Caleb Williams know it's not going to be easy for him, but I think that's part of the learning experience, to where you want to throw your rookie quarterback, who's going to be your leader, who's going to have to go win you games the way that the Bears have not been able to rely on the quarterback position for in years past. You want to give him the kitchen sink so he's prepared for everything when he gets to that moment in season. So from OTAs to where we are right now in mandatory minicamp, like, there was a really rough red zone day. And then the next time we were out there, we saw Caleb Williams look a little bit more comfortable in the offense. And they've been doing a lot of these 7-on-7 periods, which of course is to, mirror up his footwork with the route concepts and just building that chemistry before they get to camp, and they will have pads on at some point. Right now, it's still a work in progress. Like, the basic things like the cadence are things that are not mastered yet, but you wouldn't expect that for somebody who's been, in shotgun predominantly throughout his college career, as most quarterbacks are in these spread systems, having to go into the NFL to find your voice, more or less, truly finding your voice and using that thing as a tool and a weapon. They had 6 false starts yesterday. That's something that they're trying to clean up before they break from full squad practices at the end of the week. But I think if you see the progress with Caleb Williams, you see somebody who his best attribute to this coaching staff is his ability to chunk information, to learn it, apply it the next day, and then move forward and learn the next thing that they're asking him to do. Because as Matt Eberflus said, they're not holding back any parts of the playbook from him. Certainly, they're not putting training wheels on him, because starting day one, since he got here, he's been the guy, and this is his team.
Yeah, I think that was a smart move to do as well. I think one of the things that hurt Justin Fields was, A, the number of offensive coordinators, and B, in some of the games I did last year, he and Luke Getsy just did not seem to be on the same page. There was a lot of head scratching. Getsy's gone. Shane Waldron's a new OC. So talk about that relationship and kind of, Courtney, what this offense will look like compared to like what the last few offenses has looked like.
So when I get out at practice, I'm constantly watching where Caleb's going, and he's been attached at the hip with Shane Waldron, with Kerry Josephs, his quarterback's coach. And I always see him kind of like peeking over, looking at the whatever the play sheet is when Waldron's on his walkie-talkie. And it may not even be anything that has to do with him in that moment, but watching him absorb and listen, that's a good skill that you want a rookie to have as he's trying to learn how to do this thing at the pro level. And to hear just the questions that he's asking his coaches behind the scenes. I talked with Kerry Joseph during rookie minicamp, and I think it started on a Friday. So he got a text around 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday asking about a specific run play from Caleb Williams. He wanted to know why they were doing something this way. And, it's 10:30 the night before your first official NFL practice. You'd think you would be trying to sleep, I don't know, relax, do something other than that. But he's really diving into wanting to know how and why things work in Chicago and what this new scheme, which is an offense, it's a West Coast offense. 70% of the league is running it right now. But he wants to, be able to master the things that have, given this team trouble before, because they were in a very similar system last year. It's just that you're right. Like the symbiotic relationship between Luke Getsy and Justin Fields never really felt like it's there. And Caleb Williams had an advantage knowing as of his top 30 visit in April that he was going to Chicago. The Bears were drafting him. So he started working with his private quarterbacks coach, Will Hewlett, on the fundamentals of this offense and, working on the cadence, which again is a work in progress. But I asked Cole Kmet about it yesterday, and he told me that he could tell right away some of the things that Caleb was more comfortable with that might not be what you expect from a rookie coming in had they not already spent that time in the playbook. So it's a good gauge to see just how far he's come, how much more he has to learn, and look at the influx of talent. I think that'll tell you a lot about how this offense can maybe, if it wants to, become pass first in some scenarios where it wasn't the last couple of years.
You mentioned, that influx of talent in that receiver room certainly going to go a long way in potentially helping that out around Caleb Williams as he starts to digest all of this in Shane's offense. Courtney, can't thank you enough for the time and information. Enjoy the rest of the offseason. Enjoy the little break. I know we talk about training camp being here soon. The season full throttle for you guys, boots on the ground. So enjoy the time off you got coming up before camp, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
And Dad, it really is going to be fascinating. You mentioned that synergy between coordinator and quarterback. So right. I think that was the story of the downfall of Justin Fields, and the Bears have really tried to remedy that every step of the way so far in onboarding Caleb Williams into this system.
And still have to tip of the cap to Ryan Poles, the GM. All the players are there. You got no holdouts, no money issues. They brought in a lot of players in the offseason. You see how some of the offense was running. You had Adunze and DJ Moore out at wide receiver. You had Keenan Allen in the slot in the offense. You want to work the running game as well, but I agree with what Courtney said. Could this be a pass-first team with Caleb Williams and what they brought in? They're loaded up so much that on paper we are all, take the over and wins. They're going to be so improved. We got to wait and see, right? Practical application. The defense has shown some great things. Now we got to see what the offense can do with a rookie.
And apparently Caleb Williams has shown great things even at Topgolf. What is the rookie quarterback class obsession with Topgolf this year? We'll dive into that, maybe. All right, guys, time to finish off the show the way we always do. This, that, the third. 3 quick stories to send you into the rest of the day. Make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us. Leave us a 5-star rating and check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the DraftKings Network, our YouTube channel, Samsung TV Plus, and Roku. If you miss us there, you can catch the best of GoJo and Golic from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern wherever you hear VSiN on the radio. And if you miss us there or any of our great guests, and it was an awesome slate today, thank you to ESPN basketball analyst JJ Redick for joining us earlier, as well as the host of Old Man and the Three podcast, Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes from All the Smoke for all helping us preview the NBA Finals, and Courtney Cronin, the ESPN Bears reporter, just stopping by, getting us caught up on the progress of Caleb Williams there in the offseason program. You miss any of that, check it out wherever you get your podcasts, or right here as soon as we get done with the show on YouTube. And Dad, let's start off the show on a somber note for you. Once again, you are a lottery loser. The Mega Millions winner announced a single ticket sold in Illinois won the $560 million Mega Millions jackpot, the 4th largest lottery prize of the year so far, although the winner obviously going to take home a smaller chunk after taxes there. Dad, always worth it to take that lump sum and start to get that money working. So congratulations to that one lucky winner.
It you know, listen, it's a lot of money, and we never are going to get past that point of if you win that, how it changes your life. But think about it, $560 million, when all is said and done, the money taken home is $201 million. So that's basically 35%, a little over 35% if my math is right. Meaning with taxes and the money they take, they're taking over 65% of it. Again, I'll deal with it. Give me the $201 million. I'll find a way to do good with it. But that is just amazing. But everybody still takes that over the 30-year, payout plan.
Oh, yeah.
Without question. So I'm a little bummed. Your mother got up this morning and we looked at it together. She said there's one winner. And then we went in and we checked it and we saw the winner was from the state of Illinois, and we're like, we're in Indiana, one state over. Come on, So, yeah, it didn't happen. Believe me, you would have known if it would happen because there would have been a blank spot where I am today.
I was going to say, we would have just made up something about how you were sick and didn't come in, because I used to do this when I was in the offseason program with the Saints. I would play Powerball every week on Wednesday driving into work. And when I would get in there into the locker room, I'd say, morning, guys, this is the last day you're ever going to see me, because when this ticket hits, I'm driving straight to the Louisiana lottery office, and then I'm going to disappear from planet Earth and begin my life anew on some island. So unfortunately, that plan has to wait for another day here, Dad, and all our conversation. Have you figured out between yesterday and today when we talked about this what you would do if you had won the $200 million?
Not really. I mean, it's so much money.
Good.
Obviously, you'd set so much aside you could do so much good with that. But as far as a toy to buy, I mean, God, I like I said, I think I had talked about maybe having a house on a golf course, to which people said, you could get that now. And I said, no. The only house on the golf course, there is a golf course, and then there is my house. So I got a place for the dogs to just go outside and run if they want, or I just walk out and golf and nobody else is going to bug me out there.
I think people who watch this show routinely would probably say spend that money on better internet, but that's neither here nor there. So, Claudia, from one Dad headline to another, let's get to that and see if Dad can maybe break in this headline somehow.
That would be great. I'd love to see Senior get his signature shoe, which is what Kyrie is giving his dad. Shams reported Tuesday that Kyrie signed his father to a signature shoe deal, the first time an athlete has signed their dad to a shoe deal, and the shoe will be released in Foot Locker in September. And of course, the comments are funny. People are commenting like the typical dad shoes. They're like the Kyrie, blah, 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 1980s, whatever. So this is cute. It's fun. I'm very interested to see what the shoe looks like. Also interested to see who buys it. Senior, are you going to buy this Kyrie dad shoe? I don't know what it's actually going to be called, but
I would buy this. I would like a shoe of my own, but that would rely on Mike getting me a shoe, right?
Yeah.
Because this is Kyrie who got it for his dad. I'm just trying to figure out my TV screen behind me.
I was just going to say, you fix your monitor right now. What's going on over there? Your
He's
internet's
just a
crapping out. Your
dad.
TV just stopped playing.
He's just a dad. Let him be.
Well, this is a good reminder that if you were going to do the Kyrie dad shoe, it needs to be, to Claudia's point, a dad shoe. Like, we need something in the way of a New Balance or an Air Monarch, something that is built for speed, for comfort, for grilling, for mowing the lawn, that you can easily get worked up. Like, I know Kyrie Irving in this Anta line, he's had shoes that have basically looked like moccasins out there on the court that he's been giving guys buckets in. I don't know if you can go that route, Dad, if you're catering to this crowd. As a now 34-year veteran father, what would your criteria or desires be for the perfect dad shoe?
Sturdy shoe. Definitely not an athletic shoe, a sturdy shoe for me to do stuff around the house, whether in the garage or out in the yard, something. You know what I would like? Because I like hosing, I like power washing. I would like not only a sturdy shoe, but a waterproof shoe as well.
Right, there we go.
Because I get it wet, or I just have to do it in bare feet or something. So, yes, a more sturdy shoe, not one that I can go run on or work out in, one that I could do work around the house. Yes. If you want to say an old man shoe, okay, I'm fine with that.
No, I think dads are like modern day hunter-gatherers where you don't have to dedicate time to working out because your whole life is doing that. You just mentioned you're trying to go outside and power wash stuff. You're working outdoors, you're grilling, you're mowing the lawn for people. These are all the real dad activities that you settle into at this point in life. And so if you're going to make a shoe that is branded for a dad, if you're going to sign a dad, you've got to bring a crew of all of his dad friends in for the focus group to make this shoe. That would be something I would watch. A focus group of dads building their ideal gym shoe is the rock upon which I want to build this church.
I agree. Got to be easy to clean. If I'm doing the lawn, I don't want grass stains on it, dirt on it. It's going to get dirty. How easily can it be cleaned for the next, or, is it just going to be dirty and stay in the garage? So, yeah, I want it to be multifaceted, no doubt about it.
All right, a multi-purpose dad shoe would be great. This is something you could find on the internet full of idiots. And Claudia, let's get to the third because it's the perfect segue to this story. This is insane.
This is sad. Man. It's insane. It might be funny. I think it's sad. So there is a tribe in the Amazon rainforest that finally got the internet. So, okay, that's great. That's nice. Elon thought he was doing a good thing. The Tesla's founder, Starlink service, they got it 9 months ago. So here's the update. One of the head people in the tribe said, when it arrived, everyone was happy. But now things have gotten worse. Young people have gotten lazy because of the internet. They're learning the ways of the white people. They're becoming addicted to social media and certain websites, of which I will let you guys talk about. But the ways of the white people, they're calling it GoJo.
Porn! It's a 2,000 member, the Maruko tribe. They're all the kids or whoever is on it. They're watching porn. They're getting lazy. They are a microcosm of what has become to America, right? Everybody has gotten dumbed down and lazy because of Twitter, and you just destroyed a tribe, an Amazon River tribe, with your internet.
And they have to kill for their food and all of the things you just mentioned that dads do. These people actually do that. Like, they hunt and gather, and now they have these phones in the way of their survival. It's awful.
Now, they will say this is the Starlink internet system that Elon cooked up, and they said it's already helped save lives, being able to readily get emergency services for things like snake bites and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's funny because it took a slow degradation for us. Like, we got the internet in dial-up form when I was a kid, and then we got social media in college. So we've been slowly working down this path. They got shock dropped the modern day internet and immediately met the moment and met us where they are. Sending porn to the group chat, sitting on Twitter all day. They've had to limit the hours in there. They got caught up to speed quick. And it is probably a good case study on just how deadly this has all been for our brains.
This is a tribe they didn't kiss in public. So understand what's probably going on now because of some of the sites they're at. So, I mean,
they need that ban that Dallas has. That's what they need.
And man, we're not here to kink shame. Just do it responsibly, consenting adults, and then whatever you learn off the internet, that's your business. If you learned something off the internet on this show, We hope it wasn't too sexy. Download, subscribe, rate, review us. Leave us a 5-star rating. Thank you guys so much. We're almost home. The finals start tomorrow. We'll see you then.